sure you've met Bens before.
Yeah.
What's your Ben trick?
So I'd probably imagine someone named Ben having a bin poured on the top of their head.
A New Zealander, bin.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Right. I want to set you a challenge. See if you can remember the names and faces of these 8 people. I'm really bad at remembering people's faces, what they look like, and their names. So Daniel, why am I so bad at this?
We tend to think of memory as if it's one sort of monolithic process. But actually, there's a whole lot of little individual things that have to go right in order for us to remember successfully. One really, really important thing is just learning to pay attention, learning to be mindful, to be present. Very often when we're introduced to people, there's a lot of other things going on. You know, we might be a little bit maybe anxious about meeting new people. So it can really be helpful to just remind yourself that you're in a situation where you want to remember this person's name. But that alone is not enough. As I said, there's a whole lot of little things that have to go right to remember successfully. Another one is that we need to be able to create memories deliberately by creating associations and little sort of stories that help us remember people's names.
So before Daniel shows us how about we take a look at these faces again, but this time without their names and in jumbled order. See how you go at remembering them. How did you go? All right, Daniel, what are your tips?
So there are 2 steps we want to go through. The first is mindfulness, is that being present, being aware. Once we've done that, what we want to do is basically create a visual mental image and associate it with the person's face. So for example, if I meet someone named James, I might imagine wrapping chains around their head, right? Chains sounds like James, and so this is my mnemonic. But the key kind of insight is that association is the language of memory.
So what's an example of this? How would we start with one of these faces?
Okay, so the first thing we want to do is just pick out some feature that stands out to us. Take Alice, for example. The first thing that jumps out to me is her red hair. It's very distinctive. So that's going to be the kind of anchor point for my mnemonic. Then I have to think up some visual image based on her name that I'm going to associate with her hair. The lice bit I'm going to focus on here, and I'm going to imagine
Poor
that
Alice.
her, yeah, absolutely, but I'm going to imagine that her lovely red hair is riddled with lice. Maybe I imagine her sort of scratching furiously away or something like that. And that mnemonic is going to hopefully trigger for me the association, remind me that her name is Alice.
All right, I reckon I could do one for Devon. I could give it a go. One thing I noticed about Devon is he has very triangular ears, and I'm going to associate them literally with the word Devon. So next time I see Devon, I'm going to try and remember 2 just triangles of Devon coming out the side of his head, and hopefully that'll work.
Yeah, that sounds great.
I have to think of another one.
So one tip is that you can break names up. So for example, for Clayton, you might imagine a clay ton or something
Yeah,
like
I was
that.
thinking like a ton of clay, but
Yes.
I'm trying to think of something to associate with his face.
This is one difficult thing about using faces, is that you're actually limited in a certain way. So you could imagine, for example, that he has like a ton of clay attached to his feet or something like that makes it hard for him to walk. It's harder to do that with a face, but you know, you often have more resources sort of in the real world.
Okay, so remembering that tip that maybe I don't have to associate the name with a particular facial feature, I'm gonna work on remembering Jeannie here. Jeannie, she's just wearing jeans. She just loves jeans. And I'm just gonna focus on Jeannie all in double denim, denim shoes, everything. And whenever I see Jeannie, I'm just gonna think of her wearing nothing but denim. I'm sure you've met Bens before.
Yeah.
What's your Ben trick?
So I'd probably imagine someone named Ben having a bin poured on the top of their head.
A New Zealander, bin.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Right, okay. To be honest, I feel like she's got lice and he's got a bin on his head. Like, are all of your mnemonics this brutal?
Yes, many of the mnemonic images are really gross or weird because we have a memory bias towards remembering things that are unusual, that are surprising, that are scary.
Okay, so how do you remember the name Daniel, your own name?
That's one I've never really had to remember.
Right.
Although I suppose Daniel is a fairly common name. If I had to remember that name, I'd imagine someone throwing the Daniel into a lion's den.
Okay.
like the biblical story.
Very biblical. All right. Well, Daniel, thank you so much for teaching us some tricks on how to memorize a name. And next time I see you, I'll be imagining you in a lion's den, and I'll hopefully know exactly who you are.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
All right, so here's those faces one last time. See if you remember their names using some of Daniel's tricks.